We have got a great guest for you. We have Jerry Langford, who is a director at Fox TV Animation, an American animation director who directed several episodes of the animated series Family Guy. I know we have tons of excited students and fans with that. Langford has also served as an assistant director on Avatar: The Last Airbender, a character layout artist on The Oblongs, King of the Hill and Mission Hill. Over his career, he's contributed to projects in many different roles, as a layout artist, a storyboard artist, a designer, a timer, and most recently as a director.
Stay tuned for today's episode of Breaking the Biz, an informative podcast where we dive into the world of entertainment by interviewing seasoned professionals who have made their mark in the industry. Gain invaluable insights as they share their personal journeys, offering advice on navigating the dynamic landscape of the entertainment industry. Whether you're an aspiring actor, musician, filmmaker, author, animator, or any creative soul, tune in for expert career guidance, insider tips, and first-hand accounts on breaking into the entertainment industry. Get ready to unlock the secrets behind successful careers and fuel your own passion for the limelight. Please remember to like this video and to subscribe to our channels for more great conversations.
Greetings from Breaking the Biz, brought to you by Yes I Can Unity through Music and Education. I'm William Felber, your navigator through the intriguing universe of the entertainment industry, as revealed by the visionaries and creators who bring it to life. Stay tuned as we delve into diverse insights from the forefront of entertainment, hearing from pioneers, creators, and agents of change. Prepare for a journey filled with tales of innovation, resilience, and the undying quest for artistic brilliance.
I love, Jerry, that you have done a little bit of everything. And we have individuals, like I was mentioning, that want to follow your footsteps and want to learn a little bit more about the industry. I know we'll get into it in a bit here on how things are changing. And, you know, what better to get advice from someone who's actually doing it day in and day out.
Sure.
But I want to know, before we get started, did you, were you drawing at an early age? Did people go, oh my God, you got to get this, this kid into art school? Or, talk me through those early days when you really knew you had a major skill.
I mean, yeah, for me, not having all the toys I wanted, I would draw the things that I wanted. So I would create all my little Star Wars battles and things. I would illustrate everything that I wish I could do. So yeah, that was a big source of entertainment as a kid and teenager. Did I ever think I could make money with it? Not really. It was just something fun to do. And then it wasn't until I had the benefit. I'm a Southern California kid, so I grew up closer to Orange County. I attended a high school that actually had like a film media program. And at the time, their specialty was actually doing like stop motion animation, and then a little bit more towards like 2D drawn animation later on in their history, once they got sponsorship from like Disney and DreamWorks. But it wasn't until I started making films to realize, oh my gosh, people can do this for a living. This is awesome. So I almost got my crash course that you'd normally experience in a college setting. I got that in high school, where like you learn how to make a film, every aspect of it, from concept to writing to design to production, and then the editing and everything. It was just like, it was a great crash course to learn like every aspect of what it takes to make a film. And back then it was a lot more challenging, only because everything was physical media. So you had the cameras and the lighting and clay and sets. Nowadays, where you can do so much digitally, it's just awesome. Like whatever you're creative and passionate about, you could just get going making something, and by like the end of a week, you can do something that would have taken me like a semester to do. So I'm excited for the next generation, for their ability just to be able to create product and get their imagination realized so much easier than it was a generation ago. But I took a different course out of high school because we got some recognition winning student film festivals. I actually got an internship to work on a Spielberg short just right out of high school. And I was kind of at a crossroads of like, well, do I want to chase, 4 years of college? Because we got a lot of great art schools out here. Another benefit of being in Southern California is you've got the Cal Arts and the USC, UCLA's. There's a lot of animation programs or art programs or game design programs. Um, but the question was like, do I want to go down that road, or do I want to just kind of dive in and just see if I can, just by getting to know people that are doing the things, learning under them, being mentored, and then just getting right into the industry. So I chose that course because I was more excited about it and wasn't too excited about racking up a bunch of student debt. So I found courses between um, what the animation union was offering at the time, which is basically like courses that by the same instructors that you get at the colleges. They offered it through the union at a discounted rate. So I took a lot of my storyboarding classes and animation classes through the union, and then outside of that, I would find other places to like develop myself as an artist, which means you got to do just miles and miles and miles worth of drawing, where you're going to figure drawing and just sketching all the time and just learning how to become sort of like that traditional fine artist. So I was very busy, but yeah, use that time to get the skills that I needed to ultimately build a portfolio. And then the portfolio kind of gets your foot in the door to get an offer to take a test. And then if you pass that test, then you can actually join a team in some capacity, whatever it is your goal is you're trying to get into. And for me, it's like I took a couple tests early on, and there's a lot of competition in the 80s and 90s, probably more artists than the jobs available. So it's hard to get in. So the way I got in was accepting a job in the studio, but it wasn't a creative position. It's the position we call animatics, which is where you're building a storyboard by taking a bunch of art generated and then kind of doing like a mock-up, um, simplified version of the cartoon before it's fully animated. It's kind of like just using keys or like one drawing per every like 100 frames kind of thing. So I got in that way to get my foot in the door, just to get more opportunities to build relationships with people in the studio, so that I can kind of win them over and say, hey, give me a shot, let me take a test, and then taking a test and then getting into a creative position that way. But like the biggest thing really is just getting your foot in the door. And if that means you're taking a non-creative position just to get in and meet people, then that's what you got to do. Because so much of, especially the entertainment industry, is networking and knowing people and building relationships. And especially in the gig economy, where I've had the blessing of being on some shows that have gone, mini seasons. Like this is like year 20 for me for like Family Guy. And outside of like Simpsons, that's unheard of. Like most Disney shows or whatever, they only go like 2 or 3 seasons. So you're used to always having to like, hey, this is a great gig, but inside of like 3 years, I'm going to have to find something else. You don't want a big long break in between the paychecks. So a lot of once you get more experience, a lot of it is networking. That you find out friends. Hey, your friends will tell you ahead of time. Hey, we're going to have an opening. You should swing by, drop off your portfolio. And so like a lot of jobs are filled before it ever goes to like the public masses that are just coming out of college. And a lot of that is just, this is the value of networking. So that's been a big help for me going from show to show to show. I got in around 1999. So like 24 years worth of experience, I guess. And the first couple shows were like shows that only win one season. Like I think Mission Hill was like, I think they even got canceled before they even made a full year of that. So like Mission Hill and Oblongs was very short. But then King of Hill was a nice run. It's good to be on a show that's popular. It's very satisfying to be on something that everyone enjoys, and then you have the security of knowing that you'll probably get a pickup and have work the next year. So if you can be on something that is really good and appreciated, that's always a bonus. And then I've also had the benefit of like doing like a lot of mixed style stuff too. So it's kind of fun to. King of the Hill is like was cool, but it was very much like almost like creating a live action show animated, whereas like doing something like Avatar: The Last Airbender was more like anime style, and you had to learn like dynamic storytelling. And they went, I mean, they went all in. They had their artists, taking kung fu classes so that you can get familiar with the posing, so that like every element style was based off like a real kung fu style. So you had to use like the right styles for the right types of martial arts, and it was cool. And it was cool to be part of something. It was a lot of work, but it's cool to see like the end result, and like it's stood the test of time. And then Family Guy's just been fun just because it's crazy and it's Family Guy, and every episode is so different than the last, with the crazy cutaways and the crazy imaginative things that can happen. So that keeps my interest too over the years. But yeah, it's been a good run. But I would
You've got so much good stuff there. I got to dissect a little bit of it. One, I want you all to understand Jerry sharing in high school, being exposed to all of the different aspects that he could, with the stop motion, the 2D, the 3D, learning everything, even from filming it, producing it, that experience, hands-on experience is amazing. And on top of that, obviously, we all know, we've all been through high school. It's a collaborative. It's your first experience to collaborate with other individuals. Obviously, Jerry is extremely talented, but when we get into it, there are other people that work and depend on his work, vice versa. And we'll hear more about the day in and day out. The other thing that I want you to hear is, on top of not only going in there and putting himself in a position to network, right? I've told you many of times, if you can get your foot in the door, even if it's not exactly what you want to do, get your foot in the door and parlay that into another opportunity. No one can know when Jerry's in there that he has those ambitions of taking that test or being an animator, until Jerry opens his mouth and says, this is what I want to do next, right? Everyone knows when you're coming into an entry position, you want to eventually move up. So I'm not saying go in there and then right away say what you want to do, but you got to, no one can read your forehead and know exactly what your ambitions are. So when you do have those relationships and you're friendly, and the other part is you have to work hard and be noticed for working hard and having that ethic, because of that, that's what gives somebody the opportunity to go, yeah, would love having you around here, Jerry. Let's have that test and see. The other part I have to pick apart is that Jerry spent the time on his own also continuing to work on his craft. And that's the other part. We talk about school, we talk about professionals, we talk about those 10,000 hours you have to put in to master something. I'm sure Jerry is there now after, 24 years of doing this, but he also put in the part of those 10,000 hours prepping and getting that portfolio ready to have something to open the door. So we'll talk about portfolios. We'll talk about what that should really look like, because Jerry's in that position where I'm sure up and coming people, etc., get to share their work. The other part is you're hearing how important networking is, because these jobs are not always posted on a monster.com, a LinkedIn. It's usually like, hey, do you know someone? Or as Jerry said, it is a gig economy. We talk about that in the adaptability class, that you are lucky. It's almost like winning a lotto to be on a show that is successful as Family Guy. It's almost like The Simpsons, right? A long-standing show where you can stay there and work. But for most opportunities, you are going to be hired to contribute, and then you have to start thinking about what comes next. So we'll talk about union. Jerry, I imagine you can give us the inside scoop on union, non-union. Is that the way to go? But a gig economy, you need to be able to network and have a good reputation, and be a hard worker to know that once you're done with one show, you can flip and go to another one. So I'm gonna take it back to you, Jerry. Let's talk about union, and then I do want to hear, obviously, from Spielberg, getting in, taking the test, the first project and your career roadmap from there?
Yeah, especially, I mean, first you have to pick something that you actually are super passionate about, that you enjoy doing, and it doesn't feel like a grind or a chore, because you're going to be doing so much of it. You never want to get sick of what you're doing, because you're going to be wanting to do it and volunteer to go the extra mile to make it great. And if you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to want to put in that extra effort. So you have to be passionate about what you do. You have to be good at what you do, because you do have to test for these things. It's all by what you can actually deliver for your skills. And then on top of that, you have to have the right attitude and the right work ethic, because you could be a great artist, but if you're hard to work with, or if you're someone who struggles with deadlines, that's not how a show gets done. Ultimately, as much as this is a collaboration of artists, it's still a business, and the business has to meet their goals. And businesses that aren't profitable don't stay businesses for very long. So there's always like there's the ebb and flow, or the pull and tug of like the unions versus the producers, because the producers want to maximize profit, the artists want to maximize quality, and you go back and forth. But ultimately, yeah, your life is going to be a lot happier if you're good at what you do. You can do it quickly, and you got a good attitude about it. So it's like, not only is it how well can you do the job, but there's all those other aspects too that will make you stand out from the others as you're progressing on your career. That's like a lot of directors, they talk. We've got teams that we all work with, and we talk about like who's on our team and who's growing or whatever. And it's almost like there's like an unwritten acceptance of like each artist kind of has like a stock value, and that stock value goes up and down based upon how well you do your work, how fast you do your work, and how easy it is to work with you. And that's just the reality of things. And that applies to every job. Like, got to do your job well, got to have a good attitude about it. And yeah, just things to think about when you're networking and when you're building relationships, that you want to make yourself valuable to the company so that they will go out of their way to make sure you stay on the team, and aren't looking to build a new team and sort of like bring in fresh blood to replace the ones that are like, well, these people have plateaued, let's see if we can bring in someone who's more passionate. Not so much on Family Guy, but on King of the Hill, it wasn't a union show, so every season, even though they got a pickup, they would lay you off at the end of the season, and then you'd have the hiatus. And hiatuses are common in entertainment, like for between seasons. So you might have like a month or two off, but you kind of had to re-interview to come back every season. And every season, there would always be like a team of, let's say, like 50 artists. There'd always be like 3 to 5 that wouldn't come back, and they'd always end up being replaced by new kids right out of school, because the producers are like constantly trying to cull the herd and try to create the strongest team possible. So you want to be a valuable member of the team, otherwise you might be let go and replaced with someone else. So that's just kind of the cruel nature of the industry. So it's kind of like, for self-preservation purposes, be excellent. But if you love it,
I love that.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen regardless. But yeah, it's not all fairy tales. There's definitely like a competitive reality to this industry, and every industry. Is you got to keep your stock value high.
I love that you talk about stock value. We always talk about having that elevator pitch, being able to sell yourself. Bottom line is you got to bring value. I loved how you described it. It's entertainment, but bottom line, it's a business, and they got to make money. Deadlines, episodes need to come out. We talk about how important executive functioning skills are. Your organization, your deadlines, whatever you need to do to keep you focused and knocking out the work. Do you ever get overwhelmed with the amount of stuff? You mentioned going above and beyond, staying, but when you love what you do, you want it to be the best and be a perfectionist. We talk about chunking. Obviously, when we talk about writing essays, it's overwhelming when you're thinking about that intro and the body, and it's like, oh my God, an essay. With animation, I imagine you've got a lot of deadlines as well. Do you set a Google Calendar or a way to where you are working on something every single day so you don't get overwhelmed. Some individuals, I won't mention names, like to wait to the last minute. And I'm always explaining to them, when you're in a job and maybe they say it's due on Wednesday, but you get it turned into your boss on Monday because you're overachieving and you're like, hey, I know the deadline's Wednesday, but I just wanted a little feedback. Do you have a set schedule to make sure that you're not getting overwhelmed or burnt out at the very end?
Yeah, the schedule is chunked into phases. Like we're talking about storyboarding, there's sort of like there's the thumbnail phase where you're just kind of coming up with the shot ideas, and you're drawing in stick figures, and because you can do it very quickly, and you're getting a lot of ideas down. You're throwing a lot of them away because you're just trying to explore different things. But yeah, you give yourself, you chunk it like, all right, I've got 3 days to storyboard all my sequences, and you draw basically as nice as you can with that 3 days you have to work with. So you break it up. I got to do one sequence a day, and if you had infinite time, yeah, you'd probably fully illustrate it so it'd be gorgeous and look photo real and fully animated. But you don't. So you kind of use your time. I need to make this look as good as I can with the time allotted, and that's why, like in storyboarding, things look very rough. And I say to my artists, like, when you're drawing something, work with a really thick brush because it'll keep you from like noodling and putting in little details. It's like a forced discipline of like get in there with like a Sharpie and then just get the ideas down. But yeah, you work in broad strokes. It's kind of like get that skeleton built, and then whatever time you have left over, then you can start adding on the muscles and the outfits and things just to make it look pretty. But yeah, get a strong skeleton going so you got a firm foundation. And yeah, you just have to chunk it by what your goals are, for the week, for the day, even before lunch. Like, yeah, you got to set goals for yourself and stick to them. Because when you start to fall behind, you can't just push it off. It's like, well, no, that means I got to put in some extra time tonight to get to where I need to be. So the next day I don't start off already behind. You got to start off every day, on schedule. Otherwise, yeah, you'll be stressing. You won't sleep. You wake up the next day all tired, won't be able to work as well. It's like a snowball of anxiety. You can't let that happen. So yeah,
100%. And I'm so glad Jerry talked about that, because I think those of us that are taking executive functioning classes are seeing in real time how important it is to really understand deadlines, setting smart goals, specific goals, daily goals, whatever it is you need to knock out before lunch, right? Or planning ahead. We're going to talk with Jerry, how you deal with family time on top of having to get a major workload done, and when you leave your work at work, and when you really do need to take that work home with you. But before we get there, let's go to you take the test, you get in there. In the test, I imagine it's deadline timed. Could you just give a quick synopsis of what the animator test looked like when you got in?
yeah, sure. It's usually it'll be like a 1 day's worth of work usually, and if they'll give you maybe like 3 days to do it, so they give you kind of more than enough time. And if you can't return it within that amount of time, well, then they kind of already know, all right, this red flag, this guy's got a problem with procrastination meeting deadline. So that's already kind of like a red flag. But yeah, you're given like a small page of script. In the case of like boarding, it'll just be like, words on a script page. If it's animation, you might be given like the layouts of like, here's the basic roughs. Now tie these down and make them look like you'll be provided like here's your reference of the model sheets of what the character should look like and the environment, and now try to reinterpret these thumbnails, these very crude drawings, into what the finalized characters should look like. So it really kind of depends on what your like the test for every position is different, but it's all in the same sense of like it's like a day's worth of work that I don't think they really have people come into the studios anymore. I think it's like they'll give you all the information digitally. You'll go do your thing, and then you'll resubmit it, and then just make sure to get in there within the time ahead of time. If you really want to make a good impression, I would clear out my schedule and bust my butt on that test, and get it done A+ and get it in early just to make a strong impression right from the beginning.
There it is. It's be a standout and a standout for the right reasons. So let's talk about, let's talk about your progression, because you've done layout artist, storyboard artist, and even into directing. So I kind of want to, I love that you do a little bit of everything. And those are all separate special jobs that you could eventually parlay and work your way into. So just kind of, I guess, share the career momentum, maybe what you like most, and the pros and the cons of each of those positions.
My favorite still is actually the thumbing, which is like the crudest drawings of it all, but it's the most creative aspect. It's like that is the blueprint for an episode or a movie or whatever it is you're working on. Like that's the raw ideas of like these are crude scribbles, but I can see what they're going to become, and that I have the vision for what the final end result will be, but it doesn't happen until you get those initial ideas down. So I still love thumbing, and oftentimes I'll have my team of board artists working with me, and they'll present ideas, and then I'll re-thumb things. And I wish I had the time to take them to completion, but I'll just give them back thumbs and be like, all right, reinterpret these into a different sequence of shots. So that's kind of like my thumbprint on an episode is the sequences that I've approved the thumbs for. People coming out of school, it's important to know that unless you're doing your own thing, you never really go to a job and say, I'm here to become a director. A director is someone that they only hire after you've already been a director somewhere else. And you don't get to be a director until you're promoted into becoming a director. So it's like, yes, I've gone from like assistant director from one show to assistant director to another show because I've done it. But it wasn't until I was on Family Guy and showed them that I could direct by kind of working in, they call it the retake department, which is you make an episode. We work in tandem with a studio called Emation in South Korea. They do like all the in-between work. So it's kind of like we do the main skeleton of the entire episode, all the planning for it here stateside, but we send it to Korea to have them do some in-between and coloring. And then it comes back, and then we review it and be like, okay, these are things that work. These are things that didn't work. And then the retake department would redo all those things that wasn't working as well as it could. And I got into that department, which is sort of like directing just small pieces of an episode, and then basically showing that I could do that well. And they're like, hey, great, you can do these small pieces well. Let's trust you with something big. And then, so yeah, I started directing Family Guy 6th season, but I came on 4th season. So those first 2 years I was working in boards and in retakes, and then finally got my chance to direct him.
I love it. And when you're directing, how many people are on the team underneath you?
It's different sizes at different times, depending upon which phase of production we're in. In the beginning, it's all boarding, and boarding's like a team of like, I'll have my assistant director who always stays with me throughout the whole process. But then I'll have like 3 or 4 other board artists, and we'll all be cranking out the board for like the first 2 months, and then it'll go into the revision phase where the writers and the executive producers, everyone above me on the totem pole, is all getting their notes, and we revisit things and incorporate their notes and redo stuff. And that's a different team of artists. It's kind of like a revision artist is more of an entry level, whereas like a board artist is considered a more higher tier because they're creating stuff from scratch, where a revisionist is just sort of like modifying existing things. So the revisionist team might be like 12 people. But then it goes on to, it'll go into the animatics, where we take all the art and make the animatic version of the episode, which I can show you an example of. And that's like a smaller editing team. And then it'll go into design and color at the same time. So you have all the guys who are designing all of the props and buildings and people you see in the episode. All that has to be designed by someone. So there's like a team of 10 guys that do that, and then a team of 8 other people have to colorize everything. So it's kind of like I might have a team of like 50 people, but not all at once. It's like in different phases. And the way they do things, like with a TV episode that's animated, is it's not just one person who directs all the episodes. We've got a team. We've got like 9 teams of directors, and everything is like staggered by like 2 weeks. So it's like all the episodes you see at the end of a season, like we make 20 episodes a year. You're seeing them basically all being worked on all at the same time, just like staggered by 2 weeks, so that when you're seeing the air dates are like, oh, new episode of Family Guy this week. So it's like to hit those air date schedules, they have to kind of like back plan, the full. Let's say it takes like 9 months to create an episode from beginning script to like final with sound ready to air. So imagine like nine month episodes or 9 month schedules, all kind of staggered by a couple weeks, and that's the chaos that the producers have to deal with. That's like the non-creative management side, where they're managing that timetable schedule and making sure everyone gets the resources they need to complete everything in a timely fashion. So
And then when does it, Jerry? When does it get to the ADR department for voiceovers?
that's usually the last step. They'll do like initial recording early on, because you need that to do your acting. You can't. It's kind of, I say that because I'm actually acting without dialogue right now, just because of the way the chaos of the schedule is. But usually, yeah, you have to have your recorded dialogue for like main characters and things early on. Otherwise, you don't know how is this line being delivered. Is he happy? Is he sad? Is he what level of energy? You can't pose something out if you got no reference to go off of. But I am doing that right now, taking my best guess. But I know when the dialogue shows up, I'm going to have to go back and revisit all this stuff and like tweak it to the right intensity of expression and attitude. But like ADR, that kind of stuff usually happens like on the very end, like the last month of production, when they're doing the scoring and figuring all that out for right before pre-air. Yeah, it's like a
Okay.
lot of the, like when we create the animatic, we don't have final sound effects, we don't have final scoring, so we just use sort of like placeholders, like I have a sample of like this car chase that I did, and I just grabbed something that I thought kind of set the tone for like the car chase for the music. I think it was like propeller heads, like Spy Break or something. But we don't have the license to use it. They're going to score something original eventually, but at least this gives them sort of like do something kind of like this, our your own take or version of this kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on, a lot of temp placeholder things until it gets to final.
Okay. Obviously, you've got lots of talented artists that work underneath you in many different aspects, and you are, so to speak, a mentor for them, right? You're kind of directing the ship. Um, is there a mentor that comes to mind for you, Jerry? Have you had some people in this industry that took the time, obviously saw your talent and wanted to support you and elevate you to where you are now?
Yeah, all of my first like real gig was King of the Hill, as far as like trying to learn new skills while on the job to promote to higher positions. Because entry level for King of the Hill was usually coming in as either a character layout artist or a BG character or BG layout artist, which kind of means you were provided with the storyboard, which is pretty rough, and then you're tying that down into like a key animation setup where things are just kind of more refined and worked out. And I wanted to get into boarding, so like while I'm doing my full-time character layout job, I'm asking directors that I'm getting close with, like, hey, will you take a look at my test? I'm trying to build these skills. Can you give me some feedback? So it's kind of like, doing like, 2 jobs at the same time. But the directors that on top of their full workload took the time out to help me along and give me feedback and all that. That was incredibly helpful and appreciated.
Okay. Absolutely love that. I want to talk about technology wise. I know Disney sometimes has their own systems and the different animation studios want certain things. If someone wants to start watching maybe YouTube videos or LinkedIn videos on certain software to just kind of get their feet wet, so to speak, what tech do you suggest they
Um,
start learning?
The main software for like animation and storyboarding is going to be from a company called Toon Boom. So for boarding, they use something called Storyboard Pro. For animation, they use something called Harmony. Um, but for someone who's just like a student, you can do a lot of animation within Storyboard Pro. You can render out movies through Storyboard Pro instead of your camera moves. So someone who's like serious about storyboarding and animation, I think Storyboard Pro, getting familiar with like the student version of that software and watching the tutorials on how to make that work would be a smart course to go. It's always good to know like the standards like Photoshop and whatnot, because that oftentimes like I'll bring in art, I'll modify it in Photoshop, and then I'll drag it into Storyboard Pro because it doesn't necessarily have like all of the blurring and skewing and modification tools that Photoshop has. But I mean, every digital artist worth their salt has some experience with Photoshop, so it's just almost like it's a given. You should know how to manipulate things digitally. Um, that's a good place to start. I would just research depending on. It really depends on what craft you're getting into to find out what software they use. But yeah, for me, my day in day out is really Storyboard Pro. We do most of the show in that, and then edit in other software like Avid and Final Cut. I think I'm not sure. Maybe Premiere. I think we used Final Cut for a long time. They switched over to Premiere, but um, that's part. Yeah, it just like it depends on what position you're into and what tools you use.
Okay. And obviously you mentioned burnout. If indeed you love what you're doing, you can it's you love going to the grind and working on your art. Um how do you find the balance of family and time? And is there a situation where I know during COVID, animation didn't necessarily have to all go to the studio and people were able to work from home and still contribute? Um, is that still the situation, or is everyone back at the studio? Everyone has to be there to have that collaboration and to get things done as a team. And then I just want to know, how do you balance leaving the work at work and family time?
Yeah, it's a tough one, especially like I'm a workaholic slash perfectionist, so it's difficult for me to set something down if I feel like it's not quite there yet. If I only had a little bit more time, but yeah, you do have to kind of set hard boundaries of like, all right, I've committed to doing this thing after work, so I'm going to make that happen. But no, even to this day, it's still a struggle. Like unchecked, I would pull all nighters more. I used to pull all nighters in my 20s. Pulling them now in my 50s is not as much fun. It takes a little bit higher toll. It's be like, oh, I'll do it all nighter, and then the rest of my week will be wrecked. It's like, oh, that price was not worth paying. But no, it's especially like
It's 100% true.
once my son came into the picture, work-life balance became a heck of a lot more important. Um, and yeah, you just have to be disciplined with where you draw the line, because the studios will be happy to let you live there. They'll make it easy for you to live there. They'll give you snacks. They'll give you the gym on campus. They'll give you, they'll feed you. They'll just make it so cozy. So like, this is your home. You don't need to go anywhere else. Just stay here. So yeah, it's you just have to evaluate what's important to you and make sure you make the time to do those things, because it's easy. Yeah, it's easy to get stuck into. I'll put my head down, start drawing, think an hour's gone by and 4 hours have gone by, and yeah, it's just it's easy to get stuck in it once you're in the zone, and
Nope.
yeah, it just takes personal discipline.
I get it.
There's no easy fix for that.
Let's talk about. Go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off, Jerry.
Oh no, I was trying to remember. There were 2 points you were talking about. It was like the work-life balance, and there was something else you were
Avoiding burnout.
Oh, burnout. Um, the hiatuses help. It's nice to actually not have the work for like a month, as long as you prepare for it. So you actually put aside, you plan your finances so that you're not like eating ramen for a month. Because a lot of guys, I'm going to go to Europe and I'm gonna draw architecture out there. And like you can really grow as an artist using this hiatus time for your own development, work on your own projects. That's how, once you build the skills and then you want to build your own things to create your own pilots, to pitch your own ideas, that's a great time to do it. So burnout helps. It always gives you something, or the hiatus helps with the burnout because it always gives you something to look forward to. Like, all right, if I can just get to, I ship this episode and then I know I've got Easy Street for, the next couple weeks. Luckily, the production, some phases are make more labor intensive than others. So if it was nonstop, uh, unreasonable expectations, yeah, the burnout would be brutal. But luckily, there's just sort of phases of it. It'd be like, oh, this is gonna be a tough week. I'm gonna need to go the extra mile to take care of like everything where that bottlenecks with me, so that it can go on to the next phase. And I just know it. I just mentally I'm prepared, knowing that, like, all right, it's gonna be a big week this week. But I know the week after that one will be more chill, and I'll kind of like my lunches will be longer for the next week, or I might, have more flexibility and more relaxed, thought. So it all kind of equals out. But yeah, you just have to be mentally prepared for those phases that are intense.
Awesome. Have two last questions, and then we'll go to questions from the crew. I know they're dying. Emerging trends. We kind of teased a little bit about AI. Lots of worries with AI, with sound design and music. Worrying about AI with film and taking actors' voices. Using AI to create scenes. What about it? What about AI when it comes to animation?
Well, it's not there yet as far as like just I can't just like type in, you know, the Family Guy Griffin family sits on the couch and then they all start, running around playing tag. Like that's not going to come out in a way that's going to be professional quality, usable image. An image will be generated, but it won't be something like it will not meet the standards of what's necessary to create a show that works and is consistent. Um, Now, where will things be 5 years from now? I don't know. That's why if you want to stay gainfully employed, you have to be aware of the tools and knowledgeable about using them if future positions require it. Because, like I said, it's still a business, and if the business says, "Hey, these other guys made it work. They did it, and we want to do it too," because it's just a less expensive pipeline. I mean, everyone could say, okay, if you could afford to, you could be like, all right, we're going to create this project, and we're going to insist on no AI use, and it's all going to be traditional, and that's going to be great, and that'll probably work for features and higher budget projects. But there's all sorts of projects going on, and usually like non-union shows, which have to take more shortcuts to make ends meet. They'll be the ones first to adopt AI shortcuts and will be insistent upon, like, hey, we got to make this work because we got to save a buck. Um, Once they demonstrate that they can do it, then other people are going to want to copy that, and that's going to be the problem. That's just going to be the reality we're going to have to face. So, especially if you're new to the industry, the gigs you get might be at like a smaller studio or a non-union studio, just as you're kind of trying to build experience. And those are the ones that are going to be using the AI tools first. And right now, like it's going to be used for the most is like what they call the visual development phase. This is more for like features, but when you're kind of setting the tone for the style of something, trying to decide what the cast of characters is going to look like, what the environments are going to look like. People are going to do tons of AI image generation just to get ideas, and then they're going to modify that to meet whatever it is the style or the objectives or the template of the show is supposed to be. But as far as like actually doing the the turnarounds and the actual animation and the timing that is the way you want it, we're not there yet. And maybe it'll get there. I don't know, because it becomes an issue of finesse and preference. And those who know how to do good animation, know how to do good timing, can look at AI and be like, yeah, that thing's moving, but that's garbage. That's not well timed. that's not well staged. So there's going to be a lot of people and they're going to create stuff that's going to be junk, and oftentimes producers that are so hung up on just schedule and money, they can't tell the difference between junk and gem. So they have to be told by other people what works and doesn't work. So hopefully those people will have a strong voice and say, yeah, this isn't going to meet the standard. This is kind of junk. Like, even within animation, the way it's been, from the very beginning, there's always been a huge difference between TV animation and movie animation. TV animation, just to be able to create, 20-minute episodes in a year, 20 of them, it's like, 400 minutes worth of stuff, versus in that same year of time, a feature might only create 90 minutes worth of stuff. That's like 4 times as much work. So you got to take shortcuts. And that's why, the quality of TV animation is usually not as good as feature animation or movie animation. So, yeah, it's like old TV animation wishes it looks as good as a movie, but there's just realities you have to consider regarding what's in your budget and what's your goals for the episode. Because like something that's like super high action is a lot more work than a show like Family Guy, which is a lot of just like simple staging where the dialogue and the jokes carry it. You don't need like an action sequence. We'll have action sequences, but that's not like the majority of what's going on. Where it's sort of like more youthful action related stuff that's super intense, and that's why you always have, like, if you watch anime, it's like, oh no, it's anime style. It's like where you have like characters far away in the distance, slow panning shots, not a lot of character movement. That's not so much a choice of like, oh yeah, that's just the style. Like, no, they did that because they couldn't afford to be in tight and fully animate the characters and acting and moving around and everything like you would for like something out of Disney. That was a budgetary choice. They spent all their money on the action sequences, and then when characters talk, like, they don't hardly move at all. It's just like, oh, we're panning and things that to do on the camera they don't actually require generating more art. And that was a style that was developed out of budgetary necessity. So it's interesting to see how
I'm sure when you watch animation, your eye catches it in a completely different way, in a different context, and you can analyze where the action, the shots, etc. It's like when I go to a concert, I'm always critiquing the music, the sound, the setting. So I get it. I want to go to one last question, and then I'm going to open it up. We have 4 questions for you. What's the biggest piece of advice you would give to your younger self with all that you've experienced in this industry?
Mm. Um, yeah, don't be afraid to grow. It took me a while to learn the value of the networking because I'm kind of like an introvert at heart. So I would just kind of like go off on my own, work on my project, and that was great for making my director happy. But I kind of missed out on building a lot of valuable peer relationships that, like, I should have spent more time like going out to lunches with friends instead of just like, I'll just eat lunch at my desk and then I'll get back to it. So yeah, I would have had more growth earlier if I would have appreciated the power and necessity of networking early on. It's
Perfect.
worth it to take a longer lunch and make a friend than it is to work through lunch.
100%. And you never know where that friend is going to end up and how you can help him or her, and vice versa. So,
Yeah, one quick thing just about the way things happen in entertainment. It's like being on a show like Family Guy for as long as I have been. Um, we would have like a entry level production people. They would call them just production assistants or runners, and they would come in. This would be the job they would take, getting their foot in the door. And these are people with like degrees out of like Stanford, and they're very overly skilled people for these entry level positions. But they would take them to get to know people, and some people would just treat them like, oh, you don't really matter. You're just a production assistant. And that's the guy who fetches my keys at the end of the night. But no, these are all humans. They're all to be valued. They're all to be appreciated, because those same guys are my bosses now. I've seen them rise up through the ranks as they went from production assistant to writing assistant to writer to executive producer. It's like, and now those guys are my bosses. So yeah, it was good that I made friendships with them early on, so they didn't, treat me like garbage. It's like, hey, you treat me like dirt. Now it's your turn. So
It's a very important thing to learn, right? Like
yeah.
um I was just watching the CFO of Reebok started off and he still has his badge. He was the mail guy. He just delivered mail and at the bottom. So it just shows, you can work your way up to the top. So I love that answer. Treat everyone with respect. You
Yep.
never know who is going to move up and where they're going to be. Don't burn any bridges. I'm going to turn it over to Bianca. You got the first question, dear.
Hello, Mr. Langford. It's
Hi.
lovely to speak with you. Thank you, Professor Brett, for getting us all connected tonight. It's really cool that the next time I watch Family Guy, when I see your name in the credits, I can say, "Oh my God, I spoke with him." It's so cool. So thank you again for joining us tonight. One of my career goals is I'm very interested in voiceover. And so, as a director on a very iconic show, what's it like to direct voiceover actors? And also, what's it like working with Seth MacFarlane? And also, what's it like directing such a very iconic show with such controversy, like the
Mm.
show that it is, you know? So, so.
Yeah, a lot to go on there. I've done some work with voice talent in the booth when we do like we've been in COVID mode, working in our own homes since 2021. I think is when everyone went their separate ways, and some people have gone back. Family Guy hasn't gone back yet, so I'm working out of the home office today. But at the studio, yeah, we had like all the sound booths there in person. It was fun to get someone to direct and say a line like delivering something, like 20 different ways and have all these different ways to play something out. So you have to be really flexible with as the voice talent to really explore the characters and the different directions they can go. Um, Most of like my responsibility is on the visual side. So it's usually the showrunners or the writers within animation that handle directing like the voice talent. And there's a cast person that will look at the script and then will basically cast for all the roles. Again, I think that's an issue of networking because that person they'll reuse a lot of the same talent, um, season after season. So I don't know exactly like how you get your voice demo reel out there so that you can be considered, for bringing in, for like a future, casting opportunity. Um, that's a tough one because there's a lot of competition for those roles as well. I know Family Guy, even like a lot of the writers are the voices for many of the characters. In the case of Seth, he's like half of the voices because he's Stewie and Brian and Quagmire and Peter, and so yeah, he does a lot of himself. He is a creative marvel who I haven't worked with him in person for a number of years because he's branched off and he's doing the movies. He's got his other TV shows, so he's kind of more of like the mogul these days. But back in the day when he was in studio, more focused just on Family Guy, yeah, he's very creative, visionary, very strongly opinion about how a certain joke should play. I think we all learned a lot from his notes that he would give us on like how to handle certain situations. So that was really cool. It's like getting like a special tutelage from someone who's done very well for bringing his vision to screen. Um, and yeah, I miss that. I wish he were around more. But yeah, he's got just too many darn irons in the fire. Um, what were some other parts of your questions? You had a lot of good ones in there.
What's it like directing such an iconic show, like with such,
Oh yeah, especially a controversial show.
yeah.
Family Guy, it's kind of funny because it's been around so long. It almost gets a cultural buy. We do a lot of offensive things, but um, we're an equal opportunity offender. There's like no one. It's like we won't touch this and not that. So yeah, we do a lot of things like, oh my gosh, how is Family Guy not canceled? Um, yeah, it's like you couldn't just come up with Family Guy today. It
Yeah.
would be like, no, that will never get picked up. That's way too controversial. But the fact that it's been around for so long, it's almost like an accepted, like, well, you know what Family Guy is. You like it, you don't. If you're offended by it, then it's not the show for you. But for a lot of people, it is okay. And it's like, and they don't choose favorites. They're happy to call out and tease every individual type. I don't know. I've had cases where like, oh my gosh, I hope this joke gets changed because like this is too far, and like
Yeah.
oftentimes like yeah, you only see what makes the final screening. It's like I see all the versions that get rewritten. It's like, oh my gosh, you can't, no, you can't do this. This is too far. And oftentimes it's hilarious, but it's like, oh, this is wrong. You can't do this. And it creates a lot of interesting conversations with human resources because they're all very, especially with current, kind of PC culture, being sensitive about certain things. But the nature of the show is like, well, this is an offensive topic, but as long as you treat it with a certain measure of personal detachment, where like, all right, I recognize this is a joke. I'm not I'm not targeting this joke towards anyone in particular. I'm not trying to be offensive to a specific, person, unless it's like a celebrity. They're kind of a special case. But like, yeah, just I don't know. I don't know. I can't apologize for Family Guy. I don't write the scripts. I kind of get handed the scripts and I go, okay, well, this is what
Yeah.
we're doing today.
There is no need to apologize. You've got everyone on here who are absolute fans and lovers of the show.
I know I've heard you've worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's actually one of them that I am very familiar with. I've watched that. My sisters watched that. But anyway, this one is going to be a unique one. A lot of people love Avatar due to it's very cultural. Like it has like a very lots of cultural references, and being that it's mostly with its China. Did you have like involvement with that? Like, how do you like handle with shows with like a lot of cultural inspiration? Inspiration, like you always try to make it like accurate with its cultural like inspiration. And then, I mean, like I think with Avatar,
The
it
uh,
has a lot
the
of
the
China
authentic.
authentic. Yeah, authentic.
Right.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. With a
The
lot of
the
its
showrunners, the two guys, uh, Brian and Mike, that created the show, they did a lot of research and like pulled elements over a long period of time, just pretty much Googling things and building up like, all right, the Fire Nation is gonna be based off of like these Japanese armor designs and that kind of thing. And then each element of style, they themed it to like different relatable real life, martial art, architectures or styles or designs. So yeah, you just got to do your homework and see what's out there, and then in a way put your own twist on it, so you're not just straight up copying something. Like I remember with Avatar, they kind of got in trouble. They were basing the Fire Nation so heavily on Japanese styling, and then kind of the Fire Nation is kind of the bad guys in a lot of episodes. So they kind of like, well, this isn't going to play well in Japan because now we're basically saying all the Japanese are bad guys. So they had to like, put a creative spin on it to make it more unique. But yeah, it's really just that's a personal taste of the person in visual development of the creators of the show that kind of set the style and tone for the show. And that's a lot of fun. You got to basically research the whole world and find the things you like most and then incorporate it and tweak it and make it your own.
Perfect.
Hey,
Great
thank you.
question, Devin. Real quickly, Justin Duffy, unmute. One question fast.
So I was curious if there's any like particular memories that stand out for you from like working on Family Guy and stuff. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've had a great time. I love all of the silly things we do to take our mind off the episode. Like we'd break out chalk, we draw Foursquare. Someone brought in a rubber ball. We played Foursquare during lunchtime. We do a lot of crazy things that are like totally the opposite of what you're doing. And again, that's another way to kind of like break away from burnout, is doing some fun activity totally opposite that's got nothing to do with what your work is. So yeah, having fun with friends. Like these guys that I've worked with for 20 years, they're like family now. So I've celebrated, their kids' births and milestones. They've celebrated with me. We've done a lot of fun things outside of work. It's like once you work with people for so long, it becomes extended family. So I've got a lot of great memories from all the fun things outside of work that I've done that I'll always cherish.
Awesome. Great question. Danny, go ahead real quickly, unmute and ask your question.
Hello there. It's very nice to meet you. So I'm an artist who's also been working to make become an animator myself someday, and I have my own ideas, and it's actually been very similar to Avatar in a way. And I guess I just want to know what's some of the best ways of trying to get my ideas out there to get made into a TV show.
Yeah, the best thing you can do is create something that's cool and then start putting it out there in social media. Make little clips to throw on TikTok and YouTube and develop like a grassroots kind of fan base that if you make something that's cool, you'll get followers. And the people that are looking for things to develop, they don't want to try something untested. They want to see something that like, oh, people love this. Let's expand this into something else. So if you go to like, I can't easily say like what the process is for pitching because you kind of have to know the right people and know what they're looking for a certain season. But a good place to start is just make some stuff that's cool, and then if it's beloved, it'll be noticed, and that'll get them. But ideally, you want them to reach out to you, so you don't have to reach out to them. You'll get a much better offer if you can your own cool stuff.
There you go.
Cool stuff.
I'm just piggybacking off of Jerry. Everyone who has been a guest have said, get it out there, and when indeed people start taking notice of it, those people will take notice of it. So if you got that idea, don't wait for the studio, create it and put it out there. You got plenty of different platforms, and Jerry just shared a bunch with you. Last question of the night, Noah, and then I'll go to closing.
What's your perspective? What's your perspective on the rise of independent animation like Glitch Productions and Has Been Hotel, and how do you think it's going to change the industry?
Those things that are successful will shape the bigger conglomerates. They'll want to copy what makes money, what people love, and they'll do their own spin on it. So I love the independents. That's where the most original ideas come from. I celebrate them and will continue to support them any way I can. And I think every artist who puts something out there on social media is an independent. They may not be, a hugely profitable entity, but everyone who just creates art, everyone starts off as independent. Seth himself, did his versions of Family Guy while he was a college student and used those in film festivals, and that kind of launched his opportunity to make Family Guy. So yeah, everyone starts off as an independent. And if you got ideas, get them out there.
There you go. You're hearing it firsthand from someone extremely successful in the career you want to follow. Jerry, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for making time for us tonight. I know you're on deadlines and extremely busy and overseeing a huge department, but absolutely inspirational. So much information shared, extremely valuable. I just want to wish you continued success. I hope Family Guy is around for another 20 and you get to do it for another 20. If not, if it's something that you're creating, but we all look forward to following your successful career further. And just want to thank you again for being our guest on Breaking the Biz tonight.
It's been my pleasure. And yeah, best wishes to you all. I hope to see your names out there and be like, I remember those guys way back when. So yeah.
There awesome. It is. It comes full circle.
I'll be working for you guys.
There it is. Jerry, thank you. Have a great night. Thank you again.
As we conclude another enriching episode, we hope you've found inspiration in the stories shared today. Let's take a moment to honor Yes I Can's role in bringing Breaking the Biz to life. Yes I Can's commitment to empowering young people with disabilities through education, advocacy, and mentorship shines brightly, paving paths of opportunity and dialogue. This podcast celebrates the organization's dedication to nurturing talent and facilitating impactful discussions. Breaking the Biz is more than a podcast. It's a part of Yes I Can's broader mission to amplify voices, dismantle barriers, and craft a world that's more inclusive and accessible for everyone. Each episode is a chapter in our shared narrative of progress, education, and empowerment, driven by the spirit of Yes, I Can. Thank you for spending your time with us on Breaking the Biz. Continue to challenge the status quo and share stories that resonate. Until our paths cross again, let's keep transforming aspirations into achievements and infuse every endeavor with optimism. Here's to advancing the landscape of the entertainment industry, one episode at a time. I'm your host, William Felber. See you next time.